I'm Rachel Monroe. I'm 35 years old, married to the most gentle man I've ever known, and mother to my radiant, creative 12-year-old daughter, Isabel Izzy for short. But in the eyes of my family, I've always been the disappointment. Growing up, I lived in the long shadow of my older sister, Caroline. She was the golden child valedictorian homecoming queen, the one who could do no wrong. I was the sensitive one, the emotional one, the girl who just couldn't take a joke. According to them, anyway. I moved out the day I turned 18 and built a quiet life filled with art books and eventually Ethan, a man who never once made me feel like I had to earn my worth. But no matter how far I ran, holidays always pulled me back. Last Thanksgiving, I should have said no to the invitation. I should have trusted my gut. But Izzy was excited. "I want to show Grandpa my new painting," she said, clutching her sketchbook. "And Aunt Caroline's girls, maybe they'll think my dragon drawing is cool." She was hopeful, and I let that hope blind me. Ethan and I had a quiet conversation the night before. "We don't have to go," he reminded me, rubbing my shoulders. "We can make our own Thanksgiving here. Just us." I smiled, grateful for his unwavering support. "I know. But Izzy wants to go. She's still young enough to believe they'll be kind." We packed up early Thanksgiving morning. Izzy wore her new burgundy sweater dress, one she'd picked out herself and styled with black boots. She even asked to borrow a little mascara. I stared at her for a moment, struck by how much of myself I saw in her, except maybe a bit stronger, a bit braver. "You look beautiful, Izzy," I told her. Ethan drove. He cracked bad dad jokes the whole ride, making Izzy laugh until she snorted. The tension in my chest eased, temporarily. But it all came rushing back the moment we turned onto my parents' pristine street. The manicured lawns, the white brick houses, the carefully parked SUVs. And finally there it was, my childhood home, still beige, still intimidating. My mother, Linda, opened the door before we even knocked, arms outstretched. "There's our little artist," she exclaimed, hugging Izzy first. "You've grown so much, sweetheart." Her eyes scanned Izzy's outfit, pausing just long enough to make my stomach twist. "Rachel," my father said, appearing behind her with a glass of scotch in hand. "Ethan, glad you made it. Come in, come in. Caroline and the girls just got here." The house smelled like roasted turkey and anxiety. We moved through the foyer into the living room. Caroline stood in the center like a queen presiding over court. Her blonde hair was perfect. Her ivory sweater looked like it cost more than our monthly grocery bill. Her twin daughters, Harper and Chloe, were dressed identically in plaid dresses and smug expressions. "Rachel," Caroline said, kissing the air near my cheeks. "You look cozy." "Oh, is that your cranberry tart? I can help fix it for the dessert table." "I think it's fine as it is," Ethan said, stepping in gently but firmly. "Rachel's an excellent baker." Caroline's smile was thin. "Of course, just offering." Izzy stood nearby, clutching her sketchbook eyes, flicking nervously between the adults. "Harper, Chloe, say hi to your cousin," Caroline prompted. "Cute dress," Harper said flatly. "Is it velvet?" "Yeah," Izzy said, smiling. "I picked it out." Chloe added, very bold. I felt my daughter's posture shift, shrinking just a little. "Why don't you show them the new game room?" Caroline suggested. The girls went downstairs and Izzy followed. I stood still, torn between going after her and pretending everything was fine. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. What happens when Caroline takes things too far and humiliates Izzy in front of the entire family? And what will Ethan do when he's finally had enough of the cruelty? Let me know where you're watching from and hit that like button if you've ever had to stand up to a toxic family member. The living room buzzed with polite conversation, but my ears were tuned to the faint sounds coming from the basement. Laughter, movement, then silence. The kind that coils in your gut and whispers something's off. I busied myself in the kitchen arranging vegetable trays, like it was a competition. My mother floated around, obsessing over the turkey, while Caroline took charge of all the important dishes. The brined bird, the gourmet stuffing. The pumpkin mousse she insisted had to be served in individual glasses. "Izzy's not involved in any sports, is she?" my mother asked out of nowhere, her voice light but edged. "No, she's more into art and reading." "Oh," she said. "Well, every child needs physical activity. Caroline's girls are so well-rounded, violin, gymnastics, debate." "Izzy has a portfolio she brought," I said. "She's really proud of it." My mother gave a non-committal It was always like this. As if Izzy's passions only mattered if they aligned with the family's unspoken metric of value, thin, polished, performative. From the window I spotted the girls outside, even though the drizzle had picked up. They were running around on the slick patio giggling as they played some version of tag. Izzy looks like she's having fun, Ethan said, appearing beside me with a glass of wine. I nodded. Yeah, though they keep changing the rules on her. Caroline sauntered in, holding her ever-present glass of white wine. You might want to tell Izzy to be careful, she said, peering out the window. That dress is going to get soaked. I doubt you brought a change of clothes. She's fine, I replied, trying to sound breezy. She's just playing. Of course, she said with that smile. Harper and Chloe always pack backup outfits, but maybe you didn't think of that. I bit my lip. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Not worth it, I whispered. Ethan reached for my hand under the counter. You say the word, he murmured. We leave. Not yet. The kids eventually filed back in cheeks, flushed hair damp. Izzy was glowing. Mom, can I show Grandpa my drawings now? Of course, baby. She trotted into the living room where my father was seated in his leather recliner football on mute. Grandpa, I brought my art portfolio. Want to see? My father blinked. Oh, sure. Art, huh? Izzy opened her folder on the coffee table, her charcoal garden sketch, the watercolor of our cat, a surreal self-portrait that had won her first place at school. These are really good, Ethan said, kneeling beside her, especially this one. What's that A contest or something, my father asked? I got first place at school, Izzy replied. How many kids entered, Chloe asked, her tone syrupy sweet. Before Izzy could answer, Caroline called out family photo time. Just like that, the moment vanished. We all shuffled into the formal living room. My mother began directing people like a Broadway choreographer. Unsurprisingly, Caroline's family was positioned dead center. My dad flanked them proudly. Ethan, Izzy, and I were tucked into the far edge, half-cropped in the camera's preview screen. Maybe angle yourself a bit more, Rachel, my mother instructed. Yes, just like that. Ethan's jaw tightened. Why don't Izzy and I stand with George, he said. It's been a while since we've seen him. My mother paused, clearly annoyed, but adjusted. As we were dispersing after the photo, I heard a hushed conversation behind me. Caroline and my mother whispering. She really lets Izzy dress like that, and that hair after the rain, it's all puffed up. She's taking after Rachel. Same build. Ethan caught my eye. Let's go, he said. No, not yet. Izzy was smiling at Harper and Chloe, clutching her portfolio like it was a lifeline. I want to show them my dragon painting, she whispered. Okay, sweetheart, I said softly. Just remember you don't need anyone's approval but your own. But what I didn't know yet, what none of us knew, was that this would be the moment it all unraveled. That soon, this gathering would go from a tense Thanksgiving to an unforgettable reckoning. Because sometimes it takes one final cruelty for the truth to finally erupt. We were only minutes from dinner, but the mood had already started to curdle. The adults migrated toward the formal dining room. Izzy lingered near the back, waiting for Harper and Chloe to finish whispering to each other. She looked nervous, but determined she still wanted to show them her drawings. Caroline re-entered the kitchen, spotting Izzy standing by the doorway. Sweetheart, she said with a thin smile. You and the girls can go out onto the covered patio if you'd like. But don't step into the yard, it's all puddles out there. Izzy nodded, sketchbook still clutched in her hand. I offered to help my mom finish setting the table, mostly so I could keep one eye on the patio through the kitchen window. Outside, the drizzle had intensified into steady rain. Through the glass, I could see the girls standing under the patio awning. Harper was showing something on her phone. Chloe pointed at Izzy's dress and laughed. Izzy opened her sketchbook. She was trying again. My heart twisted. Ethan appeared beside me, watching the same scene. They're cornering her, he murmured. We'll intervene if it gets worse. It did. A moment later, raised voices cut through the rainy quiet. A shout, a loud splash. And then I heard Izzy scream. I didn't think, I just ran. Out the back door, down the steps, into the rain. Izzy was sprawled in a shallow puddle at the base of the concrete steps, completely soaked, covered in mud. Her sketchbook floated nearby, pages ruined. Her new dress destroyed. Her hair plastered to her cheeks. Harper and Chloe stood frozen at the top of the steps. Caroline, glass of wine in hand, didn't even look alarmed. She fell, Harper mumbled. I didn't fall, Izzy sobbed. Aunt Caroline pushed me. I tried to come inside and she shoved me. I turned slowly to face my sister. You pushed her, I said, my voice shaking. Caroline rolled her eyes. She tripped. And for God's sake, it was just mud. Don't be so dramatic. My body tensed, every muscle screaming to react, but before I could, Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm but ice cold. You laid hands on my daughter, he asked quietly. Silence. Caroline raised her eyebrows, attempting to downplay. Ethan, please. It was an accident. And if Izzy's going to cry every time someone jokes with her... Ethan moved past her without a word and knelt in the mud beside Izzy. He took off his perfectly clean dress shirt and wrapped it gently around her trembling shoulders. "Are you hurt, sweetheart?" he asked softly. She shook her head, sobbing harder now. Ethan stood and turned to me. "Get our coats. We're leaving. Now." Gasps rippled through the family members watching from the doorway. My mother appeared just in time to hear Ethan's voice sharpen. "She pushed a 12-year-old into a puddle and called her a pig," he said flatly. "If you think that's acceptable, you're part of the problem." "Oh, please," Caroline scoffed. "It was a joke. You people are too sensitive." Ethan turned to the rest of the gathering. "For years, you've made comments about Rachel's body, about Izzy not being enough for your standards. I've watched Rachel excuse it, rationalize it, endure it. But today, it ends. You don't get to mistreat the people I love and call it family." There was a stillness to him that was more terrifying than yelling. I came out moments later with our coats and Izzy's bag. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, something else. Release. Relief. Caroline folded her arms. "You're going to ruin Thanksgiving over a little spilled water." "No," I said. "You did. The moment you pushed a child to the ground to feel powerful." We left through the side gate, avoiding the crowd of gawking relatives inside. I carried Izzy's muddy sketchbook. Ethan carried our daughter. As we drove away in the rain, none of us spoke. But the silence was different now, cleansing. Izzy sat curled up in the back seat, wrapped in Ethan's shirt like armor. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the family failure. I felt like the mother I was meant to be. We got home just after 7:00 p.m. The rain had followed us all the way back, a steady rhythm against the roof, like a drum roll for what came next. Ethan ran a hot bath while I helped Izzy out of her wet dress. Her arms were still trembling more from shock than cold. I wrapped her in a thick towel and kissed the top of her head. "I'm sorry, baby," I whispered. "I never should have brought you there." She didn't respond, just looked at me with wide, exhausted eyes. As she soaked in the tub, I stared at the muddy remnants of her ruined dress in the laundry sink and felt fury pulse through my veins. Not just at Caroline, not just at my mother, but at myself for years of swallowing pain and pretending it was tradition. My phone buzzed, again and again. Messages flooded in. From Mom. "You overreacted. Come back so we can talk this out like adults." From Dad. "Your mother's upset. Call us when you've calmed down." From Aunt Brenda. "So much drama over nothing. Hope you don't hold a grudge. From Caroline Way to ruin Thanksgiving with your usual theatrics. You always have to make everything about you." My hands were shaking as I read that last one. All the years of mockery, of just teasing, of being cast as too sensitive, too emotional, too much. And now it was happening to my daughter. Something snapped. I hit call on Caroline's contact. She answered on the second ring, her voice already smug. Well, that didn't take long. I didn't let her finish. "You assaulted my daughter," I said, my voice low and even. "You shoved her into a puddle and called her a pig. In front of everyone." Caroline snorted. "It was a joke. She slipped. You're being ridiculous." "Jokes don't leave bruises," I said. "And they don't humiliate children. But even if you believe it was funny, here's the truth: you've been a bully for decades. You bullied me, and now you're doing it to Izzy." "Oh my God," she groaned. "You're still so dramatic." "No," I said calmly. "I'm just done. Done pretending. Done protecting your feelings at the expense of my own daughters. If you ever want a relationship with me or Izzy again, it starts with a real apology and actual change. Until then, don't contact us again." "Are you serious?" she spat. "You're cutting off your entire family because your kid got a little dirty." "She didn't get dirty. She got broken," I said, "and I won't let it happen again." Then I hung up, blocked her number. Then my mother's. Then my father's. Each block felt like slicing a weight from my body. Izzy emerged from the bathroom in her robe, hair damp and eyes still red. "Did you really block Grandma and Grandpa?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "for now." Her brows furrowed. "Aren't they still family?" Ethan knelt in front of her. "Family is supposed to make you feel safe and loved," he said gently. "People who hurt you on purpose don't get access to you, even if they share your DNA." Izzy sat down on the couch between us, curling up like a cat. "So, what now?" "We start our own tradition," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "One where kindness matters more than appearances. Where no one gets mocked for what they wear, or what they weigh, or what they love." She smiled faintly. "Can it involve pie?" Ethan stood. "Oh, it's absolutely going to involve pie." That night, still in our pajamas, we made mashed potatoes from scratch-roasted chicken instead of turkey, and pulled a frozen pumpkin pie from the freezer like it was a treasure. It was the best Thanksgiving I've ever had. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Because for once, we chose each other. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen new messages on my phone, none of them from people I wanted to hear from. Mom, this is tearing the family apart. Caroline says Izzy was being difficult all day. Dad, you're blowing things way out of proportion. Let's put this behind us. Caroline. Still waiting for your apology, to Mom. She's crying over how you stormed out. You embarrassed her, Rachel. That's what you're good at. I didn't reply to any of them. But one message stood out. It was from my cousin Beth. Just wanted to check if Izzy's okay. What Caroline did was awful. I'm sorry I didn't speak up. If you're open to it, maybe our girls could hang out sometime outside of all that. I showed the message to Ethan. He raised an eyebrow. She was quiet the whole night, he said. But maybe this is sincere. I think so, too. I typed back, thanks for reaching out. Izzy is okay now. That means a lot. That single moment of acknowledgement hit harder than all the apologies I didn't get. The silence from the rest of the family had been deafening, but this one voice, it helped soften the blow. Izzy slept in late. When she finally came downstairs, she looked better. Tired still, but lighter somehow. Hey, I said gently, passing her a warm mug of hot cocoa. How are you feeling today? She shrugged. Okay, I guess. I still don't get why Aunt Caroline hates us so much. I knelt beside her on the couch. She doesn't hate us, I said. She doesn't like herself. So she tries to make others feel small. Izzy frowned. But why did Grandma and Grandpa let her do that? I paused. That question, so small, so obvious, struck something raw in me. I've asked myself that for years, I admitted. I think they see her as their success story, their pride, and anything that challenges that they ignore. They didn't say anything when I fell. No, I said softly, they didn't. And that says a lot more about them than it does about you. Izzy leaned into me. Is it bad that I don't want to see them again? No, sweetie, it's not bad, it's brave. Later that evening, as we made pasta together in the kitchen, she asked, Are you going to talk to Aunt Caroline again? I hesitated. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't think she's ready to hear the truth yet. But what if she changes? Then she can come find us, Ethan added from the stove. But only if she comes with kindness. That night, as we watched a silly movie and ate popcorn on the couch, I realized something. Peace doesn't have to come with silence. It can come from boundaries, from naming what hurt you, from choosing joy even when others call it selfish. Izzy didn't need a perfect family. She just needed parents who showed up. And this year, that's exactly what we did. 2 weeks passed. Thanksgiving faded into distant memory, at least on the surface. But the ripple effects remained. Every time I opened my phone, I hesitated, expecting a new attempt at guilt. But things had gone quiet. No more calls from my parents. No more scathing texts from Caroline. No more "why are you overreacting" messages from extended family. Just silence. And then on a Tuesday morning, something unexpected arrived. A letter, a real handwritten letter. The return address was Caroline's. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. My hands shook, my breath felt shallow. Ethan noticed immediately. You okay? He asked. I don't know, I said. She wrote me. He paused. Do you want me to read it first? No, I need to know. I opened the envelope expecting venom, or worse, manipulation disguised as concern. But the first line stopped me cold. Rachel, if you're reading this, I guess I should thank you for not throwing this in the trash. I wouldn't blame you if you had. My heart pounded. I kept reading. I've started seeing a therapist. She says I have to stop pretending everything is fine. I never thought I was the problem. But I've been thinking about that day. About what I did. And I know now that I crossed a line that can't be undone. The truth is, I've always been jealous of you. I read the sentence twice. You were allowed to be messy. You had feelings. You pursued art. People loved you for being real. I didn't get that. I got pressure, perfection, image. I learned to survive by keeping the spotlight on me and making sure it never landed on you. I'm not asking for forgiveness right away, and I don't deserve a place in Izzy's life, not yet. But if there's ever room for coffee, just the two of us, I'd like to try. I stared at the final lines. There were no excuses, no defensiveness, just rawness. Ethan came to my side. Well, she's in therapy, I said, and she says she wants to try. He didn't answer immediately. You don't owe her anything, Rachel. I know, I said quietly, but maybe I owe myself the choice. It took me 3 days to write back, not a long letter, just a short reply. I'm open to coffee, but this doesn't erase what happened. I need honesty, accountability, and boundaries. If you're ready for that, then let's try. We agreed to meet at a small coffee shop halfway between our homes. When I walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. Caroline sat alone at a corner table. No makeup, no designer clothes, just a woman who looked tired and small in a way that had nothing to do with size. She stood as I approached, nervous, vulnerable. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I didn't come for you," I said honestly. "I came for me." She nodded. "That's fair." We talked. Not everything, not yet, but enough. She cried when she told me she regretted mocking Izzy. I saw her joy and wanted to break it. I hate that part of myself. We laughed once awkwardly over how many years we'd wasted pretending we weren't in pain. "I don't expect us to be sisters again overnight," she said, eyes glassy. "But I want to be better. Not just for you, but for Harper and Chloe too." As I left the coffee shop, I didn't feel fixed. I felt free. This wasn't the end of the story, but maybe it was a new beginning. The weeks that followed were strange. Caroline and I didn't become best friends overnight. There were no sisterly brunches, no selfies together for the world to see, but there were texts, tentative ones, check-ins, occasional honesty. And most importantly, there were no more excuses. One Saturday morning, she sent Izzy a package. Inside was a set of watercolor paints and a small note. "I'm sorry for making you feel small. Your art deserves to be celebrated. I hope you never stop creating. Aunt Caroline." Izzy read the note 3 times, then turned to me frowning slightly. "Do you think she means it?" "I think she's trying," I said. "That doesn't mean you have to trust her right away, but you can decide if or when you want to." Izzy didn't say anything more, but later that day I saw her painting in the dining room with the new set. One small stroke at a time. Meanwhile, the silence from my parents remained. My mother sent one final message, short-clipped and entirely without reflection. "Enough time has passed. Let's all just move on." I didn't reply. But a week later, my father surprised me with something I never expected. A letter. His handwriting, once bold, was shaky but familiar. Inside was something different, something I'd needed my whole life. "Rachel, I've been thinking about Thanksgiving. And a lot of years before that. I didn't protect you the way I should have when you were a child. I didn't stand up when I should have. And I didn't say anything when Caroline went after Izzy. That silence hurt you and it hurt your daughter. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can undo what's been done, but I want to try. I want to understand how to do better. I hope someday you'll give me that chance. Love, Dad." I sat with that letter in my lap for a long time. My heart ached and opened. Ethan read it and simply nodded. "It's a start." We decided to meet, just my dad and me, at a park cafe near our neighborhood. Ethan and Izzy stayed home. At first we sat in awkward silence, sipping lukewarm tea. Then he said, "You used to draw cats on all your notebooks." I smiled a little. "I still do. I thought pushing you to be stronger meant not comforting you. I see now that was wrong." "I didn't need to be stronger," I said. "I needed to be seen." He nodded, eyes rimmed red. "I'm not asking for things to go back the way they were," I said. "But if we're going to have a relationship, it has to be different, truthful, respectful, especially when it comes to Izzy." He agreed, and for once he didn't try to defend the past. Later that week, he and Izzy sat together at our kitchen table, quietly flipping through her art portfolio. No comparisons, no backhanded comments, just quiet admiration. And slowly, Caroline began to show up in new ways too. One afternoon, she pulled Chloe aside during a family barbecue and gently corrected her when she made a dismissive comment about a classmate's outfit. "That's not how we talk about people," she said. "Not anymore." It wasn't perfect. Old habits crept back sometimes. The air still got thick with unsaid things. But something had shifted. We weren't pretending anymore. We were rebuilding one honest moment at a time. And for the first time since I was a teenager, I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, healing was possible even here. By spring, our little family had begun crafting something we never had before. Our own version of joy. No big formal dinners, no suffocating dress codes, no awkward silences while someone made backhanded comments about someone else's life choices. Instead, we built something warmer, something real. It started with family adventure Sundays. Sometimes it was hiking a new trail. Other times it was experimenting with bizarre recipes in the kitchen, like pickled watermelon rinds, Izzy's idea, or attempting croissants from scratch, Ethan's ambitious misstep. Izzy laughed more now. She painted more. She asked harder questions, too. Like, do you think Grandma really misses us? Will Aunt Caroline ever stop being mean for good? What if Harper and Chloe actually like being cruel? And the hardest one? Was it wrong for me to stand up for myself that day? That one nearly broke me. You did nothing wrong, Izzy, I said, holding her close. In fact, you showed more courage than most adults do. Sometimes the scariest thing in a family full of tradition is breaking one. But Izzy, she was learning how. The real test came when my mother invited us to an early summer family reconnect weekend at a rented beach house. I stared at the invitation email for several minutes. No apology, no acknowledgement of Thanksgiving. Just logistics and passive optimism. She wants us all to pretend it never happened, I said. Ethan looked up from his book. So, are we going? I don't know. I sat with it for days. Then I called my dad. I appreciate the letter, I said, but I need you to understand if we go, it's on our terms. We stay at a hotel. We come for only 3 days. And any more body-shaming, bullying, or gaslighting, we're out. No discussion. To my surprise, he agreed. So we went. The first afternoon at the beach was tense. Caroline was stiff. My mother overcompensated with fake cheer. Harper and Chloe barely made eye contact with Izzy. But something small shifted on the second day. Caroline pulled me aside as we watched the kids build sandcastles. I know this doesn't fix anything, she said, but I really am trying. Therapy's harder than I thought. I nodded, so is trust. Later, Izzy sat down next to Harper and Chloe's sketchbook in hand. For a moment, I held my breath. Then Harper asked, "How do you make it look so real? The water, I mean." Izzy blinked. "You want me to show you?" And just like that, a crack formed in the wall that had divided them for so long. We left after the third day exactly as planned. No blow-ups, no backhanded remarks, just a cautious step forward. It wasn't perfect, but it was possible. Back at home, as Izzy washed sand off her sketchbook cover, she turned to me and said something that made my heart twist and heal at the same time. Maybe Aunt Caroline isn't as scary as I thought. Maybe she's just sad. I smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear. She's learning, I said, like we all are. As summer gave way to fall, I started feeling a familiar ache, the one that always came as the holidays approached. Every wreath in the store, every cinnamon-scented candle, every nostalgic song on the radio. It wasn't the memories I missed, it was the hope I used to cling to. That maybe this year would be different. That maybe this year they'd finally see me, appreciate me, treat me as more than the family disappointment. But this time I wasn't walking into that storm blind. When my mother emailed us an invitation to Thanksgiving, this one with the subject line, "Fresh Start," I paused. "Izzy," I asked one night as we cleaned up after dinner. "Grandma invited us to Thanksgiving again." Her face fell. "Oh, do you want to go?" She considered it, then quietly asked, "Will I have to sit next to Harper and Chloe?" "I don't know." She poked her mashed potatoes with a fork. "Only if they're like they were at the beach." "Fair," I said. Ethan added, "We could always do what we did last year, our own Thanksgiving. Just us, pie and pajamas." Izzy smiled at that. "Can we have both?" I blinked. "Both?" "Go for dessert," she said, "but have dinner here first. Our way." It was a compromise I hadn't considered. But maybe it was the most powerful kind one, where we set the tone. And so we did. We cooked a full meal at home, just the three of us. Laughed through it. Played loud music in the kitchen. Ethan burned the sweet potatoes. Izzy set the table with mismatched plates. I made the cranberry tart that had once been ridiculed. This time it was perfect. Then around 6:30 we drove to my parents' house. We stayed for just under 2 hours. My father greeted us at the door looking genuinely pleased. My mother seemed stiff, but she offered Izzy a gentle hug and complimented her dress. Caroline approached cautiously during dessert and asked Izzy about her most recent art show at school. Chloe even chimed in with, "That dragon painting you posted was actually pretty cool." Was it awkward? Yes. Were there moments of tension? Absolutely. But this time we weren't waiting to be accepted. We weren't hoping for approval. We were the standard. As we got back into the car that evening, Izzy yawned and curled up in the back seat. "That wasn't so bad," she said sleepily. "No," Ethan replied, glancing at me. "It really wasn't." I turned to look at the house one last time. The porch lights glowed just as they had a year ago. But something inside me had shifted. This year we didn't break at Thanksgiving. We bent it to fit our healing. And in that quiet, unremarkable moment, I realized something powerful. I wasn't seeking a seat at their table anymore. I was busy building my own. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I started therapy. Not for closure, not to fix anything, but to understand. To stop carrying guilt like it was mine to own. To stop internalizing every silence, every shrug, every thinly veiled jab as proof that I was too much or not enough. My therapist, Dr. Nguyen, listened intently as I unpacked the years. The subtle jabs, the missed birthdays, the time Caroline accidentally tore my prom dress, the white dress she wore to my wedding, and then, of course, the puddle. You know, she said gently during our third session, most people don't realize that emotional abuse often looks like tradition, like family culture, like just how it's always been. I sat with that, because that was exactly what I'd been taught. That family was unconditional. That pain was part of the package. That I should be grateful for the invitation, even when it came with humiliation. But that lie was unraveling now. And in its place, I was building something new. I started journaling again. Drawing. Designing with purpose. And when Izzy asked if we could redecorate her room to include a little art corner, we spent a whole weekend doing just that. Stringing fairy lights around the desk, hanging up her best sketches, organizing paints and pencils like sacred tools. One evening, as we painted together, she asked me something I'll never forget. Do you think people can really change? I paused paintbrush midair. Some can, some don't want to. She nodded. Aunt Caroline's trying, I think, but I still don't trust her. You don't have to, I said. You're allowed to protect yourself. She smiled. That's good. 'Cause I like how I feel when I'm with you and Dad better than how I used to feel trying to fit in. That night I cried quietly in the hallway, not out of grief but out of gratitude. Gratitude that my daughter wouldn't have to wait 30 years to understand her worth. That she wouldn't confuse silence for strength. That she'd learn how to say no without guilt. Because maybe breaking the cycle wasn't just about what we walked away from, but what we taught the next generation to never accept in the first place. By the time Christmas rolled around, invitations had been sent, group texts revived and extended. Family was buzzing about plans, but Ethan and I had already made our decision. We're going away this year, I told my mother over the phone, keeping my voice calm. Just the three of us. There was a long pause, but we always have Christmas together. Not this time, I said. We're making new memories, for Izzy. My mother's sigh was deep and disappointed, but I didn't budge. So we booked a cabin in the mountains just a few hours away. Snow was in the forecast, and Izzy was beside herself with excitement. We packed flannel pajamas, cocoa packets, board games, and zero expectations, and it was perfect. We built snowmen without judgment, watched cheesy holiday movies on an old DVD player, exchanged handmade gifts by the fireplace. On Christmas morning, Izzy looked around the cabin and said, I don't think I've ever felt this happy. And that's when I knew this wasn't just a holiday, it was a healing. It was reclaiming something that had always been mine, but buried under shame, obligation, and expectation. It was proof that peace doesn't have to be earned, it can be chosen. The day after Christmas, I received a letter. Not from Caroline, not from my mom, but from my father. Rachel, I'm not good at this. But I've been thinking a lot since Thanksgiving, about how often I stayed silent. I thought that if I didn't say anything, I wasn't part of the problem, but now I know silence is complicity. You deserved protection. So did Izzy. I didn't give it, I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I see it now. And I'm sorry. I cried when I read it, not because it fixed everything, but because for the first time someone finally acknowledged the truth without asking me to get over it. When we returned home, I called him. He answered with a shaky hello. I got your letter, I said. I didn't know if I should send it. I'm glad you did. We talked for over an hour. He told me stories I'd never heard, about how much pressure he and Mom had put on Caroline, about how he thought tough love would prepare me for life, about how he sees now that all it did was break me. And then he said something I'd longed to hear. You're a damn good mother, Rachel. You broke the cycle. You did what I didn't. The words sat in my chest like a warm stone. I didn't forgive him right away, but I started to believe him. Caroline, meanwhile, continued her quiet attempts to rebuild. She texted once a week, never pushing, just checking in. One afternoon she asked would Izzy be open to coming to Chloe's birthday. No pressure, just thought I'd ask. I showed the message to Izzy. She thought for a moment. Can we go for cake and then leave? Absolutely, I said. You set the limits. So we went, stayed for cake, left before things could sour. Izzy even laughed once when Chloe complimented her art and asked to try watercolors. Afterward, Izzy said she's trying, I can tell. Trying wasn't everything, but it was something. And in a family where trying had so often been replaced with pretending it felt like a revolution. Spring arrived quietly, no dramatic changes, no huge declarations. just sunlight returning to the windows and the sense that things were slowly, steadily mending. The Sunday before Easter, we were planting herbs in the backyard when Izzy asked the question that stopped me mid-spade. "Mom, are you glad Aunt Caroline pushed me that day?" My hands froze. I looked up at her, sunlight catching the gold flecks in her eyes. "What do you mean?" She shrugged, brushing hair from her face. "It was awful, but I think if it didn't happen, everything would still be the same. Like, we'd still be pretending." I put the trowel down and knelt beside her. "You're right," I said slowly. "It was a horrible moment, but it cracked something open, and through that crack, the truth finally came out." Izzy grinned. "Like planting seeds." "Exactly. Sometimes the dirtiest places grow the best things." Later that evening, we curled up together on the couch and rewatched a home video Ethan had filmed over Christmas. It was just the three of us opening presents in our cabin, laughing over burnt cinnamon rolls and singing off-key carols. Izzy watched it with soft eyes. "We really are a family, huh?" she said. I smiled. "The best kind. The one we built ourselves." Not long after, Caroline sent a final message, short but meaningful. "I'm still in therapy, still learning, still making mistakes, but I've stopped trying to be the golden child. I'm just trying to be human. If you'll let me keep showing up, I will." I didn't respond with words. I sent a photo of one of Izzy's newest paintings, a vibrant watercolor garden with a dragon curled among blooming peonies. It was titled "Things That Grow After the Rain." She replied with a single emoji. "We're not the perfect family now. Sometimes my mother still makes passive remarks. Sometimes Caroline still slips. But now there are boundaries. There is truth. There is healing. And Izzy, she's thriving. Not because we hid the pain, but because we faced it. Not because we erased the past, but because we rewrote our future." If you're still watching and this story sounds a little too familiar, maybe it's time to ask, have you ever had to choose yourself over family tradition? Have you ever drawn a line and found peace on the other side? Tell me in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to know they aren't alone. And remember this: you don't have to keep setting your table at someone else's house just because they call it home. Sometimes the most sacred tradition is the one you dare to break. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more stories of healing, resilience, and the families we choose. You are not too sensitive. You are just finally listening to your own truth.